Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tulu. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We're starting now, so we will need all our panelists to go on mute now. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you today to Sahel Consulting International Women's Month Program, themed Gender Equality for Sustainable Agriculture in Africa. My name is Tolulokwe Babajide, and I'm the Financial Inclusion and Gender Manager at Sahel Consulting. I will be moderating today's session. We'll be starting today's program with the opening remarks from our managing partner, Temi Adegoroye. After which we will have the panelist introductions that will lead us straight into the proper panel discussion. And rounding up today's session will be our very own Aisha Adija with a call to action. Today is a good day, and in ensuring that we have a smooth flow, we have few housekeeping rules. At this junction, it is a honor to have Temi Adegoroye give us the opening remarks. Over to you, Temi.
All right, thanks very much, Tolu. I hope you can hear me okay. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you, Temi.
All right, thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to start by saying a big thank you to very distinguished panelists, friends and colleagues in the landscape who have made out the time to really join us despite their very busy schedules. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation today. But of course, I would also like to say a big thank you to distinguished participants who have also made out the time to join the conversation. It is indeed a pleasure to be here today, commemorating the International Women's Month, and also using this opportunity to highlight the phenomenal contributions women are playing in the agriculture and nutrition landscape, particularly in Africa. While we celebrate the wins, of course, it's also very important to highlight the key barriers limiting women's equal participation in agriculture and nutrition. We know that women face greater constraints than their male counterparts in accessing essential resources, services, technology, market information, and even financial assets. Women are also underrepresented in, within most of the local institutions, governance mechanisms, and they tend to have less decision-making power. But at Sahel Consulting, we work really hard to make sure that we can actually contribute our own quota to really ensuring that we build this this gender parity and make sure that women also have a voice, and we can actually duly recognize the contribution and the impact of women within this landscape. Sahel Consulting is a management consulting firm. We're committed to transforming Africa's agriculture and nutrition potential in the landscape, and we work collaboratively with various organizations and partners, work with the public sector, the private sector, even international development organizations across several areas of agriculture and nutrition, conducting agricultural value chain analysis, market studies, launching of innovative businesses and ecosystem solutions, shaping inclusive policies and implementing sustainable agricultural development programs. And we at SAI Consulting, we believe that Africa can feed itself. And for this to happen, women farmers must be empowered with the skills, the tools and information they need to really participate actively and competitively in the agricultural sector. And our work is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda, which really aims to develop and strengthen the awareness of gender equality, of course, women's empowerment. We recognize gender equality as the basis for reaching a world which is just, which is socially inclusive, a world which is prosperous, and which is also sustainable. And the gender gap in food and agriculture is really extensive, and women are more likely to be, food insecure than men in every region of the world, particularly in Africa. And that's the reason why, conversations around gender equality is really, really important, and making sure that we bridge that gap and empower our women, to be able to recognize and be able to play actively, equally, competitively within the landscape is so important. Our projects, most of the projects that we implement as SAI Consulting are actually designed to be inclusive and equitable, taking into cognizance some of the challenges that women face. For example, one of our programs, the Advancing Local Dairy Development Program, which is really focused on competitive national or local dairy sector in Nigeria, is really catalyzing the Nigerian dairy sector, by really improving livelihood, productivity, and nutrition of smallholder women dairy farmers, and making sure that they can actually play within the dairy sector and be recognized for what they do. Aldim is an example of a gender transformative program, that integrates women dairy farmers into the formal supply chain and, empower, them with training, program, financial services. And I'm very sure if Maya is here today, I'm very sure she's going to speak a lot about some of the work that we're doing around making sure that some of these women within the dairy landscape are financially included, and also imbibe the culture of savings. I won't take much time. I will probably just wrap up my remarks now by saying that every aspect of our organization, SAI Consulting's actions is really geared towards gender equality. And we're very deliberate and very intentional about that. We want to ensure the empowerment, even in our interaction, both internally and externally. And we are also fully committed to the pledge of the 2022 International Women's Day, breaking the bias. And we look forward to working with all of you in this meeting today as we continue to expand our footprint in the African agricultural landscape, and as we continue to advocate for gender equity and parity. Thank you so much. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Temi. And taking it from where Temi stopped, we will all agree that women and agriculture are almost synonymous in Africa. The role that women play in ensuring food security and economic development in the continent is undisputed. According to the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, women in African countries spend up to 60% of their time in agricultural activities. Women farmers contribute up to 50% of labor on farms in sub-Saharan Africa. More than 60% of employed women in sub-Saharan Africa work in agriculture. And according to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, women account for 75% of the farming population in Nigeria, working as farm managers and suppliers of labor. Yet, they are still highly disadvantaged due to limited access to land, finance to run the farms, access to farm inputs, access to relevant technologies, and access to markets. With us today are 4 brilliant women who will take their turn to address the barriers that women face in agriculture, as well as preferring strategic solutions. One of our panelists is Mrs. Ifoma Ayaun. Welcome. Thank you, Mrs. Ayaun. The next panelist is Ifunanya Ogboko, the head of One Woman at Sterling Bank. Thank you, Ifunanya, for being a part of today's conversation. We'll move on to Ms. Asma. Thank you, Ms. Asma Begum, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So the last but not the least, Atinuke Legbele.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We're going straight into the panel discussion. And today I will be starting with Mrs. Ayaun. Ms. Ayaun, being the focal gender lead at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, what will you say are the immediate steps that the federal government is taking to provide women farmers with equitable access to input and extension services based on the recent review of the National Gender Policy in Agriculture? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me start by saying that women are the gatekeepers of food security. We have provided the data that informed the production of the National Gender Policy. However, despite women's contribution to agriculture, the access base of women to agricultural input, it puts at less than 20%. For me, this is an inhibition towards the realization of food security. The policy document was launched in 2019 with 11 objectives. And of course, one of the objectives of the policy is to enhance the access base of women to agricultural assets. That is, access to information, seeds, fertilizer, land, and other components. The ministry actually noted that if agriculture is to be the engine room of economic growth and development, the concerns of women in agriculture has to be addressed. The policy actually ensures that we have agricultural sensitive programs and policies that are engendered in such a way that men and women will have access to and control of the agricultural resources. In terms of land acquisition, yes, we know the importance of land in Nigeria, especially when it comes to agriculture. It is said that land is wealth. And because of in Nigeria, we have this patriarchal society where men determine who gets what, how, and when. Women actually don't have enough resources In terms of land, most women don't have access to land. Inputs like fertilizer, most women don't have. And what we are doing in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is to address the transformational gender norms that inhibit women from access to inputs. In terms of access to fertilizer and seeds, and equally financial inclusion, we are galvanizing women across the states, not individual women, but women groups, to link them up to financial institutions so that they can have access to funding. If we are talking of access, equality, equality does not translate to equal access. In access to funding, if we recapitalize any bank, and then to say that women and men should access those funding, there are conditionalities, there are stringent conditionalities that are attached to these funds. We intend to bring down all those conditions that make it impossible for women to access funds, and then make sure that we bridge that gap in access challenges. In line with the Sustainable Development Goal number 5, that is predicated on empowerment of all women and empowerment of all girls. And for the fact that the ministry has repositioned agriculture not only as a project tool, but as an asset to various agricultural assets. We are trying to make sure that women have access to the input in terms of technology. If we say we are seeing agriculture as a business, which means there must be a correspondent return on investment, particularly for smallholder farmers who are predominantly women. We need to address, we are addressing the Sustainable Development Goal number 9 that is predicated on innovation. If you bring it down to agriculture, we are talking about tractorization and all those equipments. And the question is, where is the place of women? This policy seeks to ensure that we have female, women-friendly technologies to ensure access to technology and equally reduce drudgery for women, because women suffer a lot of time poverty that is associated with gender roles. In terms of extension delivery, we know that it is a subsector that has huge gender disparities, because most of our extension agents are men. We intend to build the skills and competencies of extension agents to begin to address the gender disparities in access to extension delivery. Most women are challenged by roles, gender roles, and they find it difficult to access extension delivery. Therefore, we need to increase the number of women in extension because it is abysmally low. Number of extension agents in agriculture is low. We are lobbying the government to ensure to enhance the numerical strength of extension agents who are women.
Thank you, Mrs. Ayan. Thank you so much. You touched on various vital points. Women should be included at all the stages in the value chains. There shouldn't be a job that is meant for men, and there shouldn't be a job that is meant for women. And you mentioned something, you mentioned a phrase, financial inclusion. it makes my heart so happy because it's something that I'm very passionate about. And that would take me now to Ifunanya. We know that for women to competitively participate in agriculture, women must be granted access to financial services. Women must be financial literate, not just financial literacy, but women must be financially capable of interacting with the various entry points, with the various access points, financial access points. And Ifunanya, you are the head of One Woman at Sterling Bank. And would you say that Sterling Bank is deliberate in providing financial products or services to women farmers? And now, knowing that women farmers are not monoliths in itself, we have diverse, we have diversity also in that demographic. Over to you, Ifunanya.
Morning, Tolu. Morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. For us at Sterling, One Woman was carefully designed to identify and profile tailor-made solutions for women. And this solution cuts across from business, financial, social, and personal needs of women to ensure they live a very fulfilling life. Our vision at One Woman is to become the preferred bank for women in Nigeria, and we can truly achieve this by being impactful and intentional in the lives of our customers. I'm bold to say we are customer obsessed at Sterling because ensuring our customers live a fulfilled and a well-enriched life will give us pleasure. We have various offerings, and part of the offerings we have for women at Sterling include access to loans, various loans, discounted loans, zero collateral loans, access to mortgage financing. We've also carefully built some partnership across trusteeship, nanny services to ensure women have a work-life balance, as well as I've talked about our card solutions. Okay, so being intentional about female farmers, we are very intentional about female farmers, especially at the grassroots level. We understand they make up to 70 to 75% of the agric and farming population. And that being said, we have carefully created a Sterling Women and Youth in Agric product. It's a 9% loan with a maximum lending limit of about 50 million for women. And we have also recently partnered with Sahel Consulting in terms of financial inclusion for women in the rural area and the northern part of Nigeria. To be precise, the dairy farmers, where we have onboarded over 200 women and counting. Part of what we have done to support these women is we have brought the bank to them in their own space in terms of account opening, passport photograph and capturing on site, BVN enrollment for them on site as well. We also are deploying our agency banking solutions to them that will ensure that they do not need to come out to the city to the bank. So they have a bank in their location where they can transact comfortably as well. And this will also create employment for women in that community to serve as the agent bankers too as well. They will also be trained. We'll also be deploying our solar kiosks too in those locations. They will serve as the hubs. It will also create employment as well as help the women in charging their phones. So where they have light issues, they can easily go to their solar kiosks. That is also their mini bank, and they'll have their phones charged as well. We'll also be giving the women financial literacy training for them to understand the money, the importance of savings, budgeting, and spending. As women, they take a lot of things for granted. It's important we keep sensitizing women and prepare them to have a brighter retirement and bring a lot of women out of poverty. And lastly, we'll be giving them their VEV cards in case of travels, so they can also be bold to walk up to an ATM and transact and do whatever they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ifunanya. And Ifunanya is particularly true. We are working with Sterling Bank in one of our implementing states on the Advancing Local Dairy Development in Nigeria program, ALDI. And we are making sure that women dairy farmers have operational bank accounts, either bank accounts or e-wallet accounts, and they are able to receive payments into those accounts and then imbibe a culture of savings. Thank you, Ifunanya, for touching on that. I will quickly move on to Ms. Asma. Ms. Asma, you wear so many hats, and we want to know about it, particularly when it comes to you being a farmer in Nigeria. And being a scientist and, hello, Ms. Asma. Hello, Ms. Asma, can you hear me?
Oh my goodness. I can't hear you.
Okay, on to my question now. You wear so many hats, and one of those hats is being a farmer in Kaduna State. What would you say is the level of access to local and global markets for female agribusiness entrepreneurs in Nigeria, either in the cold or dry storage? And also, as part of that question, would you say that we have the right policies and support in place for female agribusiness entrepreneurs in Nigeria, given the recent rise in insecurity and inflation? Over to you, ma'am.
The second part of the question is what I got very well. The policies are wonderful, like our Madam in Agriculture, Gender, in federal government, she mentioned there are beautiful policies and everything is in place, agreed, and she's very passionate about it. And our Madam in the bank has all these awesome programs available, quite true. But my biggest problem is the mindset of the woman herself and the society, as the society molds what the society or the culture expects of a woman. She is trained and tuned to believe that it's okay for her to be a second-class citizen. She is tuned and trained to believe that it's okay for her to be poor. I disagree with that. I have worked with thousands of female farmers, and they to the next level. You have to sit down and because they are always these surroundings, their communities, their culture makes them think that if they grow bigger, they are sort of going to be looked upon as not so good women. And every woman wants to be looked upon as a good woman. I hope I'm talking to somebody out there. So yes, for them to even have a bank account, it's like they have to look at, will they be accepted as a nice person if they have a bank account? Then having the bank account and lodging money into it is another challenge. Like I wanted to tell the madam, yes, you have agencies and so on, but you know, she has to walk that distance, carry that money and expose that money to another person who is immediately going to tell the male members of her family that today she lodged so amount of money. I wish you could create a system in which nobody has to know how much money she's lodging. When she goes to the market to sell her maybe 3 or 4 chicken or a bag of whatever, nobody should know how much money she put in the bank. Immediately she exposes that to somebody else. Oh my goodness, there's a group of people waiting for her. Oh, so you did this. It's hard being a woman. It's hard. I hope I don't know. I don't know if I'm talking to somebody out there. Then even, am I? So For her to make a difference, for her to be able to participate in getting all that support, first of all, we have to fix that mindset. We have to fix that cultural way of looking at women. It's not okay to be hand and feet. You have a mind. You have if they ever want to own a land, the only thing offered to them is the degraded, hopeless part of the land. It's not right. They're paying good money for it. They are only accepted as laborers, harvesters, and stuff like that. It's hard. It's hard. We have to work on that part for them to be able to access all these things. I hope I've answered some part of your question. And I didn't get the first part. I didn't even get that part. It was breaking.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Asma, and thank you so much for the passion. The first question is, what is the level of access for female agribusiness entrepreneurs to local and national and global markets?
Very low, very, very low, very low. I would say, I mean, local market, yes, she takes her stuff to the village square every week. They have a market and then she sells it. Of course, there are middlemen involved that are not going to favor her, but she's so used to it, so she lets it happen. As per international market, it's very poor. The information doesn't even trickle down. Maybe the bank and the Ministry of Agriculture can make deliberate efforts to get them into clusters and get their produce out there. They do awesome stuff because I work in the village. I sit with them. I talk with them. And when I get them into groups in the evening, when everybody's come back, sometimes I even put my projector, let them see the women out there on the planet. Say, wow, mommy, really? Say, yes, you can do this too. You can be part of this. I drive my truck. And I see the way they look at me. And then after some time, some younger ones come and say, show me how to do this. And I say, yes, I will show you how to do this. You can do this. Just get them to do stuff. I have a mini.
Hello, ma'am.
But all the policies and all the support available, the biggest hindrance is the mindset. I come back and say that, but we can make it happen. We can. It's not like it cannot happen. It can surely happen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Asma. You touched on very important issues that we have in agriculture. Poverty in Nigeria is very feminized, where people would potentially point to a poor person, and that poor person will be a woman. And this is as a result of the various limiting barriers that we have. And you also mentioned the social behavioral change. And I think that is very important. That is very key for us to start reorientating the minds of women, and particularly women farmers, in thinking differently in how they see themselves is very, very important. And you also touch on something very important to us at SIOL Consulting, and that is women clusters. On the Advancing Local Dairy Development in Nigeria program, Aldin, the first component is the farmers organization, because we believe for us to be able to really effect change, we then must be very strategic, and that is why we're moving through the groups. So we have women-only groups, and we provide trainings, we provide extension services, we provide financial literacy, leadership participation, and this is also to be able to improve that household decision-making power for women. So thank you very much, Ms. Asma. I know that we're going to have further conversations on this, but I will move to the last but not the least, Atineke. Atinuke, you're the co-founder and chief operating officer at Cattle Foods, a production and agro processing company. And you are a young woman. You are changing the narratives. For a long time in Nigeria, when we look at farmers, when we think about farmers, the picture that comes to our mind is not a young, beautiful woman, but you are changing the dynamics, and you are not alone in that, because I know that we have, we have a lot of young female farmers in Nigeria. But what are the challenges that you faced and you are still facing in the agricultural sector? And is it specific to your gender and to your age? Over to you, Atinuke.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Thank you, everyone. Well, there are lots of challenges that we'll face in agriculture and in processing, from raw materials to logistics to mechanization. But now talk about the gender thing. Wow, maths even has to do with gender and age at the same time, and also stature. So, we I have a challenge when it has to do with farm workers or
Sorry
factory
to
workers.
interrupt you, Atinuke. It will be good for our audience to know what Cattle Foods is all about before you go straight into the questions.
All right, thank you very much. So, I work with Cattle Food. Cattle Food is a food processing company that is addressing malnutrition and eating hunger using stable crops that are biofortified, such as vitamin cassava, orange flesh sweet potato, and biofortified maize. We process this into different food products to address these challenges, and it's targeted mainly towards children from 6 months of age to adulthood and to adulthood. So back to the question. So just like I said, there are a lot of challenges in processing agriculture that I face personally as a female farmer, and especially when it has to do with access to farm workers that are actually male. Just like Madam Asma said, there are a lot of cultural belief that agriculture or farming is for male, like a male-dominated sector. And when they say female coming in, it's something that comes to them as a shock. And looking at a young female like me and with a very small stature, so coming in with getting access to farm workers and all that, they find it difficult to work with female who are in agriculture, because they so much believe that, just like she said, they are known for a second citizen. So male cannot work with a female farmer. So they feel they cannot listen to us when we tell them to do things. And it's actually a big tug of war for us initially, because one of the things that we've been able to do in Cattle Food is to, when these people come, we have to do a lot of orientation to make them realize that it's not just about you coming to work for us, about you also learning along the way. And that also helps us to at least address that issue to some extent. But at the same time, it's not a lot of people still believe, especially people that come to work, that they cannot work for a female farmer because they cannot just listen to a female. Then access to land is also one of the issues that I face personally as a female farmer, because there's a cultural belief too that there is a percentage or an acre of what a woman should have, maybe not more than an acre of land for you to farm, which is something that is not worthwhile. I want to farm, and you're saying that I can only have access to 1 acre of land, which I want to get with my own money. It's not like you want to give me free of charge, So the access to land is one of the major challenges that I face before I was able to address that. I think one of the things that I've been able to help me personally is, well, maybe having a male co-founder that has been able to help me, because there's some aspect that if I know that my power cannot handle this, I have to push him to do that. But at the same time, this is not supposed to be happening, because looking at the fact that you're looking at nutrition and looking at people consuming good food, women are actually at the center of these things. We are the one at the center. We are the one that knows what the family wants, right? So a lot of attention has to be bring to this, that female, not just about maybe being a farmer, female knows what needs to be done, and especially in processing. So as like I said, a lot of challenges, but mine has to do with land and access to farm workers. So those are the major challenges that I was able to have in my line of production. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atinuke. We want to live in a world where women do not need to work effectively in their chosen field, leaning on a man. It's good to have, and thank God for your co-founder, but we do not need to live in that kind of world. We want to live in an equitable, we want to live in an equal world. And we know that with all hands on deck, we will get to that. I just really want to appreciate the work that you're doing at Cattle Foods. It's not easy being a female farmer in Nigeria, and you're doing it absolutely fine. So thank you. For the second round of questions, I will be moving on to Mrs. Ayaun. Hello, Mrs. Ayaun.
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Ma'am. Thank you. I wanted to be sure that you're still here.
Yes.
Okay. How would you say, how is the government collaborating with private sector? Because when it comes to changing the dynamics in agriculture, and agriculture contributes, according to the National Development Plan, agriculture contributes 25% to Nigeria's GDP. And gradually we are getting to that stage where agriculture is going to take a center stage. But for all of this to happen, we need to work together strategically. But how is the federal ministry now contextualizing it? How is the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development collaborating with the private sector and development organizations to ensure that women farmers have access to appropriate technologies and markets for long-term viability and scalability? For women to do so well, women farmers to do so well in agriculture, women farmers must be taken from the informal sector to the formal sector. And being in the formal sector, there are various systems that women farmers would need to master. But how is the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development working with the private sector and development organizations to ensure that women farmers across all levels, both in urban and rural areas, have access to appropriate technologies and markets? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, what is going for us in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, alongside the launch of the National Gender Policy, is the issue of endorsement and political will. We have this political will to drive this National Gender Policy, of which one of the objectives is women's access to input. Well, it might interest you that we have a gender-sensitive Honorable Minister and our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Ernest Umahihe, who has graciously inaugurated the National Gender Steering Committee with the trust of implementing the National Gender Policy. We are not operating as silos. We are ensuring collaborative partnership with development partners, civil society organization, women organization, leaders and opinion molders, and across divide to ensure that this policy is implemented, especially when it comes to access to available agricultural inputs. Because if women don't have access to inputs, moreover, we have little or no voice. And if that is the case, it means that our concerns are not being addressed. So there are conscious and concerted efforts towards collaborating with stakeholders, and they have shown or demonstrated partnership with us. Incidentally, Sahel Consulting is one of the members of the National Gender Steering Committee with the trust of ensuring that women's voices and concerns are met, particularly when it comes to financial inclusion, access to women-friendly technologies, access to information, to market access, and many more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ayam. And you touched on key points. And that is so true. For us to be able to have scalable and sustainable development in agriculture, we need to make women a priority, women farmers, and when it comes to access also. But also in making this happen, all hands must be on deck. There's a need for partnerships, there's a need for consortiums, that is a need. It doesn't do anyone good to work in silos. And thank you so much for touching on that and what the government is doing with the private sector. I'll move on to Ifunanya. Ifunanya, when we talk about financial inclusion for women farmers, we know that majority of the women farmers that we have in Nigeria are mostly located in the rural areas. And maybe for a long time, the financial institution, financial service providers have designed products that does not put in mind the challenges that women farmers or people that live in rural areas face. So we'll have, a savings account that would typically ask for a minimum account balance of 2,000 naira. To someone that lives in the urban area, 2,000 naira will not mean a thing. But someone that lives in the rural area whose livelihood is majorly on that, whose major livelihood is really subsistence, 2,000 naira means a lot of things to them. So if a woman is presented with that kind of account, it will not work at all. But these days, things are beginning to change because we are beginning to see banks, financial institutions, such as Thailand Bank, who are paying attention and who are working deliberately with private sector like Sahel Consulting in understanding the motivations of the rural farmers, understanding what their motivation is. And this year's slogan for the International Women's Month is breaking the bias. There's a bias around women rural farmers, in that for a long time, women in rural areas and who are farmers have been known to have very limited financial needs. Oh, we would say that, oh, what does she need money for? What is she planning? What is the plan? But that is also changing. But in able to reach the women that we work with, the women farmers, there are major financing requirements. Access to credit is very important. And it's important for us to be able to communicate the requirements to the women so that they understand what they are going into. There has been some financial institutions in time past who have granted credits to women and they've enslaved the women, making sure that the women are not able to pay back the loans. And for a long time, women have been enslaved. And that has also formed the perception of women farmers around financial services. So there's this typical word in Yoruba that says, oh, I cannot take a bank loan because a bank loan would typically enslave me for years or for a lifetime. but we are changing that dynamics. But what would you say are the major requirements that women farmers, bearing in mind that most of them are in rural areas, what are the requirements that they must meet before they are being approved for financing? Over to you, Ifunanya.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Tolu.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we understand the peculiarities of these women, and I would be dishonest if I tell you a lot of women in these rural areas do not understand banking, and even those that you try to sensitize, they still are not comfortable. There's a trust element there, which is also another bias that needs to be broken for women, like the other panelists have spoken about cultural biases and women accepting to be poor. Trust issues is also another bias that needs to be broken for women, for them to also move ahead. For us at Sterling, requirements include account opening, which we go on site to them to open this account, deploy agency banking to cover the whole ecosystem and the solar kiosks. We'll also group the women into various buckets as well. So you're into maize farming, you're into tomato farming, you're into vegetable farming, we'll put them in various buckets. This helps us to do the group lending. And in the process of doing this group lending, we're able to do them in batches, and they are able to monitor and guarantee themselves. So if we're lending to female maize farmers or 500 and choose to lend to the first 200, the 300 that are waiting their turn, once they pay down the 50%, would ensure these funds that have been given to the first batch is well utilized. And where they see whatever they are doing with these funds will jeopardize their own opportunity, they will also blow a whistle on them. The other one thing we're doing to also ensure the women are comfortable is flexible repayment cycle. So we look at what you're producing, and we work with that repayment cycle. Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be monthly? And we do this to encourage the women be able to be financially stable, have money to do other things, and they are not under any form of pressure to be able to pay back to the bank. Creating access to markets too is something we're happy to do. I had an engagement with, please permit me to share, I had an engagement with women at Oyinbo Market, and someone in the gathering was talking about going across the border to get Okazi leaves. And when she said, I said, like Okazi leaf that we grow in the eastern part of Nigeria, and she was like, yes. I'm like, why can't you get from Nigeria? You're going all the way to the border. And she gave a lot of analysis. And I told them we are working closely with them to see how we can get the women in the village to be able to supply to them. So if I give a woman in the village loan, she's able to produce. She's also having access to market as well. When you create that sustainable ecosystem for them, they do not struggle. The other thing I wanted to talk about is on cold hubs. We've noticed most of the women, part of what they struggle with, even when they take this loan, is they have a lot of their goods damaging, perishable goods, tomatoes, and they tell you, I have no way or means of preserving these things. So we are currently working on a solar cooling hubs that will help these women in these locations, also a major market, for them to be able to preserve their produce and sell and be able to make money too. Thank you, Tolu.
Thank you very much, Ifunanya. It's so interesting to know what Sterling Bank is doing about, going beyond just providing credit for women, but making sure that the entire value chain you're working, you are effectively plugging in solutions in each of the value chain. So you're giving loans to someone that is planting Okazi leaves in the east. And with that, that person will be able to then, we are then creating solar hubs that will be used for storage. From there, you're then transporting it to the woman in Oyinbo Market. That is looking at the entire value chain. And that is very, very interesting. It will be good for us to have further conversations on that. But thank you very much. It's very important for financial institutions to do more than just providing credits, and then waiting, coming at the end of the 3rd month or 6 months and becoming Sherlocks for the women. And most of the time, the women will run away from their communities, the women will become depressed, and most of the times, even some financial institutions go extreme in trying to retrieve money from these women. They lock them up, and all of these are what contributes to the low adoption of financial services by women farmers. Thank you for, putting more light to that. I'll be going to Ms. Asma. Ms. Asma, you are the CEO of Muhammad and Roshana Farms in Kaduna. Can you share with us quick tips on how? Hello, Ms. Asma. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Farmer, the lady farmer, and I want to tell her she's not alone.
Hello, ma'am.
Attacked at the farm by 30 people. They didn't touch me, but they really came to harass because they just couldn't take it. That how can a woman of a different physical appearance and a female and a tiny is going to be functioning there? But I was very lucky, and I would still repeat doing awesome stuff, and they were able to send the engineer with me. He was nearly beaten up, but we scaled through, and I stood my ground and I said, no, I paid for this place and I'm going to work here. So there's so many things. And then again, I would say, yes, she's absolutely right. The community men did not want to work with me, and that's okay. When I realized that, I immediately sent buses and trucks to a community 50 kilometers away from where I was, and they brought I had 200 people working on the farm in one single day, and they finished doing everything. And I eventually talked, because I'm a very open and a person. I now went to the community leaders in the evening and I said, look, the money came to you directly to your house, but you allow the money to go to a community 50 kilometers away from you. Is that wisdom? Is it because I'm the one holding the money and you saw me counting and giving them up front? So it was eventually the younger people all became part to my, though they had to hide and they come close to me, but eventually it became an okay thing and the community became friendly and we had a good time. But there are hard, hurdles that you have to pass through. But if you have a good spirit and you have a good heart, and of course you're paying them well, eventually you win them over. Then as per the bank thing, I was plead to Madam in the bank that what they do is they to lodge money, how much money you've lodged, you just buy a recharge card, and then there's a way you lodge the money. Instead of making it a recharge card and talk time or internet time, it actually goes to your bank. I think that's a very safe and secure way of lodging money into the bank. If they could do that, I will be really, really very happy. Then the other challenge that women face is this, you see, most people do not have access to smartphone. I'm now working with a cluster of women in Bauchi and in Jaba local government in Kaduna state. They're awesome women and so on, but I wish the bank could help create a product in which it is included and mandatory for you, the person taking the facility, to have. Maybe the bank can even provide a smartphone, because once you have a smartphone, I, the aggregator or the facilitator, can send you training material, can communicate with you, can solve your problems in a jiffy, and we can make real serious progress. So I would plead with you guys that please, let's be innovative, let's be more interactive, let's get tools. They're not expensive anymore, these smartphones and so on. These women are eager, once you get their interest, once you get them interested in what you're doing, they are ready to go all the way. But it's hard to break that barrier the first time. I'm happy to be here, and I hope I've talked on something to somebody. And Madam in the Agriculture, I am your success story. The government stood by me and made me come back with trailers and trailers of rice. I was the woman when I went there, they were calling me mad. They called the security stand by me. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Ms. Asma. Even though I've not even asked the question, but I would just want to touch on the issue of providing funds for women farmers. It's also about, it's a case of sustainability. Right now, if women have accounts for 75% of the entire smallholder farmers in Nigeria, that means that we are talking about millions and millions of women farmers that probably will have a feature phone, a basic feature phone that is not able to, that is only limited to a USSD payment. Getting phones for them is also will be a very challenging thing. And also because even when it comes to financial services, it's also about identification. It's about ensuring that women have the proper identification, proper ID cards that they can use to enroll for financial services. So I would say that there's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to financial services, adoption of financial services for women farmers. But I believe that with all of us working together, both all the participants and even beyond this conversation, also working together to ensure that we provide that financial literacy, capability, we provide an enabling environment for women farmers to be able to adopt financial services for their growth. So I will come back to you, Ms. Asma, but now we'll go on to Atinuke. Atinuke, you've been in this business for quite a while. What is your advice to young female agric business entrepreneurs based on cattle food successes and partnerships? And I know that you've done it as in cattle foods. You guys have been very proactive when it comes to working with development organizations. There's this, I know on this call, we will have young female farmers that are looking to learn from you. What will you say, what is the advice, what advice will you be giving to them? And how are you changing the narratives in the context of being a female, young agric business entrepreneur in Nigeria? The advice you'll be giving to people, to young female farmers, and how are you changing the narratives?
All right, thank you very much for the question. Okay, so let me start from the last question. How am I changing the narrative? One thing I commit myself to do when I came into agriculture is to do what I am happy to do. Like, I am happy about what I'm doing. And this has helped me to grow more and more and create more, be an example for even young female farmers coming in, because I know that when it comes to gender and closing the gap of gender equality in agriculture, it will help to build sustainability and also build food production and also create a future for female farmers. So I actually place myself in that aspect, like, okay, so what a man can do, we can also do better, possibly. So I've been able to like put myself in that line and also find a way of providing more nutritious food through what we do in cattle food, because we are the center of nutrition as a woman. So providing more nutritious food for people, especially those at the bottom of the pyramid. And my advice for every young female farmer or intending female farmer on this call is take part in every opportunities that come your way in agriculture. Don't say some are limited to man, some needs to be taken by man. Take advantage of every opportunities. Don't limit yourself. Number two, join communities both agriculture communities, both the one in the area of your specialization and the one in your, not your area of specialization, so that you could have access to information, have access to what other people are doing, and also learn from them. Don't limit yourself. That is number 2. Number 3, get mentors. One of the things that have helped me grow, especially being a female in this sector, is I've been able to get mentors that have helped me grow, that are female. I've been able to point out to females that are doing a lot more than I'm doing at the moment. And I've been able to learn and leverage on their knowledge, because it's also helped me grow and also helped me to handle some challenges that I might combat in my way. And finally, for me, is get to know policies that has to do with female gender equality in agriculture. Do not just say, I'm a female, I don't want to get information. Get to know the policies that work in agriculture, that deals with female equality and all that. That will also help you grow in agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atinúkẹ́. You mentioned mentorship. You mentioned belonging to communities, networking, taking opportunities, and maximizing every opportunities, and also get to know your policies. It's very important. Do you know we have several policies in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development? So even if it's not directly connected to your field, but it's still always good to be knowledgeable about the various policies that we have, even if it's the one from the Ministry of Finance, even if it's the one from the Ministry of Budget and Planning. It's always good to stay abreast of all the policies that is going on in Nigeria, that is being formulated in Nigeria. Thank you very much for that. Ms. Asma, I'll come back to you shortly. I'll come back to you now for the question. Can you share with us the tips that agribusiness, female agribusiness entrepreneurs how they could participate favorably in the markets that we have, looking just at Nigerian markets, maybe not taking it outside of Nigerian markets? What are the tips that you share? You mentioned trailers. That really caught my attention. Trailers and trailers of rice that is being taken out from your farms. I can imagine the number of hectares of land that will be available to you. I can just imagine the number of people that are working. So can you share with us the tips? Thank you, Ms. Asman.
I'm for rice production. Okay, right? There rice and there is seed. You can grow seed of rice. You can grow a variety that's very expensive. Like now, let me tell you, it's all rice. There's rice grain, food that you eat. There's rice seed that is much more expensive than the grain. And then there is the classy elite variety basmati rice. So what did I do? I want to make as much money as possible from the same exercise. So those trailers and trailers I was talking to you about, I collaborated with a seed company and I grew seed for them. So what happened? When I grew the seed, they came and they took the whole thing and gave me money up front. I didn't have to carry my seed to the, my crop to the market and sell bags. No, the whole thing, several trailers, I wouldn't want to mention because you would think I'm showing off, was all theirs and they paid me upfront, which is a good thing. That's good business, but it is still rice. And I make more money than anybody who is growing grain. Then I went another step ahead. I started growing basmati rice. Now I'm the only person who has 1 kg and 3 kg registered with NAFDAC basmati rice produced in Nigeria. That is far more expensive than any other rice. cereal rice. So you, the woman, look at the market. Having a superior variety, having it is going to add money on it, fine, go do it. Then you make super good money compared to anybody else. So the same woman who is being attacked and called mad is the same woman that is making super money. So you now come back and say, oh, can you be my advisor? Can you tell me how to do this and that? And I smile, sure, I will. So have I answered your question? I hope so.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Asma. And I found it very inspiring to hear you talk about how you sort of upgraded yourself, even though it's still the rice production, but it's about producing different kinds of rice. You know, appealing to various markets. We have people that doesn't eat the normal rice, they go for basmati. You're selling to them. That is really, really interesting and inspiring. I'm really, really just clapping. Thank you very much. And at this time, we'll be asking the members of the audience to begin to drop their questions and specify the panelists that you want to answer. You want them to answer the questions. So in rounding up, while we wait for the questions to begin to drop in, I will go to Mrs. Ayaun to give us the last words on this for this session. Mrs. Ayaun, can you give us the closing charge, your closing charge?
Yeah, for my closing charge, I will say that yes, we have dwelt on access. However, one of the important issues in agriculture is the issue of, yes, access and control that women have. A woman can have access, but does not have control over those resources. And that is why the ministry is now engaging on a program known as Gender Justice, where we have assemblage of male-headed homes with their wives on issues pertaining to shared responsibilities, shared decision-making, so that together they can manage the funds and then utilize it equitably. Finally, I just want to say that if we want to have a sustainable and equitable agriculture, the challenges women face in agriculture has to be addressed, because women are the gatekeepers of food security. If we enhance the access base, of course, we are going to feed ourselves. And one of the key elements of agriculture is not only on economic benefits. Agriculture equally pertains to security issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ayaun. And it's so nice. Your closing charge is so spot on. You know, it goes beyond just agriculture. It also goes to security. And thank you very much. I'll move on to Ifunanya. Ifunanya, what's your closing charge?
Okay, thank you, Tolu. On a closing note, I'd like to urge each and every one of us to become advocates for financial inclusion for women in Nigeria. And this is in our own little way, in our own little spaces, we can make that difference. Let's try to contribute to our community through financial literacy, account opening through One Woman at Sterling Bank, and encourage these women to save. The social and the economic benefit of financial inclusion cannot be overemphasized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ifeanyi. Financial inclusion goes beyond just opening bank accounts. It is about human lives. It is about enabling women to take ownership. Mrs. Anyanwu touched on that when she mentioned control over productive assets. One major way that a woman can do that is to ensure that she has her own bank account. She's able to save. She's able to, to invest in whatever livelihood she wants to invest in. But the first step is ensuring that the woman understands financial services and she's able to interact, in a comfortable way with those financial, access points, financial services access points. But thank you very much, Ifeanyi. I'll move on to Atinúkẹ́. Atinúkẹ́, what's your closing charge? Atinúkẹ́. Okay, while we're waiting for Atinúkẹ́ to give us a closing charge, I'll move on to Ms. Asma. Ms. Asma?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, can you please give us your closing charge?
My closing charge is that, yes, I'm a very proud Nigerian farmer, and I want every other farmer in this country to be happy and proud of women farmers. And I want a policy that makes it mandatory for every citizen to have a bank account that would automatically force the society and the communities to make sure that these women have some sort of structure that is financial. If we have a policy that says every citizen that is adult must mandatory to have bank account, that will force every person to have that. And then you can build from there and get them on board. And most especially in the rural areas is
We're losing you, Ms. Asma.
A little more push to get there. Hello.
Thank you, Ms. Asma. So thank you, Ms. Asma.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so Ms. Asma, from your charge, you're saying that for as many women farmers that we have on this call, be strong, be resilient, and upgrade, be innovative, think outside of the box. And thank you very much for that. I think that is very important. And thank you, Abiodun. Abiodun was responding to your question, talking about smartphone and the ability to be able to use the USSD payment. Abiodun is saying that Sterling Bank has feature phones can be used to carry out financial services via USSD. Sterling Bank has Subex. Abiodun, it will be good if you can also follow up with Ms. Asma on this product so that she can have more information about it. And then there's a question that came in. And after this question, we'll then be rounding off, and I'll be handing over to our very own Aisha Adija. Someone is asking, do I have to get involved and interact with debt or go to a rural area to own a farm or a food processing company to be involved in agriculture? How can I contribute to sustainable agriculture and food security from my urban area using technology? Who do I throw the question to? I think I would throw this question to Atinúkẹ́. Atinúkẹ́, over to you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
And
okay, maybe alongside,
so
you give us the closing charge too.
All right. Okay, so to the person that asked the question, you don't necessarily have to move to rural areas to get involved in agriculture. There are different value chains in agriculture, from logistics to marketing to processing to to research. There are a lot of value chain that you can get involved in agriculture that you don't necessarily need to move to the rural area. And in terms of technology, there's hydroponics, there's aquaponics that you can actually do in the urban area that you don't need to come to the rural areas. But I feel most of the reason why a lot of people come to the rural area is because, one, access to raw materials, for especially to those in processing, and also people in primary cultivation, and also access to produce. So you don't necessarily need to come to rural area, get to know the value chain in agriculture that you can key into and you have interest and passionate about. And you can also do hydroponics, soilless farms, aquaponics in the urban areas to contribute to agriculture. Thank you. And to my final charge, self-positioning is good for female farmers. Position yourself, let our voice be heard every now and then let's keep going, let's keep running, don't get distracted. Whatever you might hear, just believe in yourself and do what you're passionate about in agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atinúkẹ́, and thank you for those words, for women farmers. So your words will be, be very strong, put yourself out there, don't be afraid of publicity, don't be afraid of visibility, and learn and keep on learning, because there's new trends too in agriculture. The agriculture that we have in the 80s is so different from what they have now in 2022. So put yourself out there, be consistent, be resilient. Thank you very much, Atinúkẹ́. And with that, we end today's panel session. Thank you everyone for participating in today's panel session. Please do not go. I'm handing over now to Aisha Adija, my colleague at Sahel Consulting. Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you very much, Tolu, and a huge thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much for honoring this invitation and indeed having a sit down to have this talk with us. And a very big thank you to all the participants that also joined. We hear you and we hear you loud and clear. Gender equity is the silver bullet if we want a world that is sustainable and prosperous. Whatever transformation we're looking at achieving, it cannot be done without women being carried along in the journey. And we as women in agriculture, we have to keep making noise. We are here, we have been here. And women learn from women. I think that's one thing that clearly comes out to me throughout this conversation. Women learn from women. Let's continue to push and let's continue to carry each other along. And another key takeaway that really comes out to me is we as individuals and everyone, this is a call out to everyone on this call. What are you doing in your own circle of influence to break the bias? How many women have you influenced? How many women do you employ in your place of work, in your firm, in your office, on your farm? What are you doing? And I think with that, food for thought, we would say thank you very much on behalf of our executive chair at Sahel Consulting, Ndidi Umuneli, and our managing partner, Temitope Adeguru, and everyone at the team, Sahel Consulting, Agriculture and Nutrition Limited. We say thank you very much. Have a nice day and God bless.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye.